All right, joined now by rising senior for Lynchburg Field Hockey, Alex Rebman from somewhere in your house, maybe your room. First of all, how are things with you?
Good. Staying busy. It's been a long couple months, but I've kind of been able to find different ways to stay busy and healthy. And yeah.
Well, before we get to the main point of today's conversation, you mentioned you're busy. I'm curious, what are you doing? How are you keeping yourself busy during all of this?
Yeah. So for the first 9 weeks, I actually took summer classes online. So that was a lot. And then I work at an outdoor restaurant on the lake. And so that's been able to stay busy. And so I've gotten a lot of hours there. And yeah, so we never really shut down.
Oh, good. That's good for the business and obviously good for you as well in
Yeah.
this particular situation. So, good deal. Glad to hear the initiative being taken. So, let's focus on the news of last week. Of course, unless you live under a rock or you're out on a boat in the middle of nowhere, you know that the landscape of college sports is changing. And of course, last week, the ODAC, all of its member institutions decided that the fall and the winter seasons for 2020 will be postponed until 2021, which is important that it's postponed. People need to remember that word more so than cancel. But I'm more interested in how it affects you all as athletes. And certainly there had to be some hesitation to your typical thought process coming into or coming back to campus because of the current situation that we're in. But what did that news, do differently? How did it really affect you? And then, of course, from there, how did it affect the team?
So the night that we got the news, we ended up having a team meeting. And so in our group chat, we were always talking about how we weren't really expecting it, but as school started to drop, obviously it was kind of almost expected at that point whenever Washington Lee pulled out. And so when we finally got the news, we were all heartbroken. I mean, coming off of the last 2 years, we've had such a strong team. And so we were just so ready to hit the ground running whenever we got back on campus. And so having to prolong that a little bit longer, there's definitely some pros and cons, actually. I think we talked about a lot about the positives from this whole experience. We're in a unique situation where as fall athletes, we've never come in and been able to integrate the freshmen right away and team bond and really kind of hammer out a lot of the things that we needed to work on from last year. Rather, we came off right from the summer where we were apart and we really never got that chemistry. And so I think just looking at the positive of that, of just being able to come in and have this unique opportunity and come into the spring even stronger than we would have in the fall. And, keep our momentum that we've had the past 2 years. I mean, we've come off of 2 really strong seasons, and so we want to keep that ball moving and in the right direction and just train hard in the spring or in the fall and, get into the spring and really have a good season.
What do you consider your role to be? Because you're also going to be in a unique position, not the only senior, of course, but typically we see seniors as leaders. They've been through the gauntlet for 3 years and they know how to or do their best to bring people along as quickly as possible. But as you just mentioned, now there's more time to do that. So if there is any change other than that to what you think your role is going to be, what is that?
I think me and Emma always try to be the positivity. And so I think just moving forward, I know that a lot of people were hanging their heads. I mean, it's hard news to get, but just going into the fall we have a really big freshman class coming in. And so just making sure that they're integrated into the team. And so just keeping up with the positivity and really just motivating people, because we're a very fit team, but that doesn't mean we can't still train hard in the weight room and on the field. And so just making sure people are motivated, because I know it is kind of a drag and people are obviously feeling all sorts of different emotions. And so making sure we move forward.
Yeah, there's no question about the different emotions. And, certainly there's uncertainty with how it's going to look. But can you point to anything maybe in your own personal experience in life that may be able to help others deal with an adverse situation like this? A lot of us, I think, are taking this time to reflect and realize certainly that there are positive things about the current situation, but maybe even think about a time in our lives where we didn't know that that was going to help us, get through now. So what about maybe your athletic or even your personal life experiences? Do you think it would be helpful to keep people's spirits up, and no matter what the schedule ends up looking like, continuing to go down that path?
I think that for me and just like our team as a whole, I know coming in freshman year, I had definitely a lesser role. And so that was a hard adjustment coming off of high school sports where you're kind of like the top dog. And so whenever I came in, it was kind of the initial shock factor, but just realizing for me and as our class as a whole, as like the senior class, we've come such a long way. I mean, the impact that we've been able to make and just how hard we've trained, just to keep that in the back of our mind, just saying that, things might not be going our way, but just like look at all we've done and just look at how far we've come and how hard we've trained and just being able to move past that and move forward from that. So
one other thing about the past, and something I'm always interested in talking to athletes, is that motivation to go further than the year before. In some cases, it's very easy to understand where that motivation comes from, because if a team has a bad year, well, it's obvious why they want to have a better year. But certainly you guys, the last 2 seasons, have had terrific seasons, terrific years, going even one step further a year ago. Some people would be fine with that. Why do you think that your program, your teammates, are not fine with where you ended up last year, and really not okay with stopping there again this year and really wanting to take it to the next level? Where do you think that comes from?
I think our team is very competitive by nature. I mean, it shows just even at our practices, let alone our games. And so that competitive nature of our team, I think, just drives us each year. And coach always hypes us up in the locker room before games and just knows our potential. And so just knowing where our team could be, like, we're never settling for just Elite Eight. We want to make it Final Four. We want to make it to the championship. We want, there's always those next building blocks. And so coach always tells us to never settle. And like Coach Smith always says, 1% better every day. Like, if we just settle for Elite Eight, I mean, that's not good enough for our team. We want to be the top dog. We want to be able to, raise that trophy at the end. And just with the last 2 years, we just always are talking in a group chat, and we're never unmotivated. I mean, we're always training hard, and it's definitely internal, but also from each other. I think we motivate each other. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, you mentioned Coach Steele, and every year there's always that, wow, she's still going for it. She's still coming to practices and pushing herself, let alone pushing you guys. What have you taken the most from your time with Coach Steele to this point? And obviously there's the experience factor. She's been around field hockey for longer than some people have been alive, in just this location at Lynchburg. So there's that part. But what else maybe that you didn't expect that you would glean from her and her time as your coach have you experienced and really appreciate coming into your senior year?
I think the biggest thing is that she sees things in players that you definitely don't see in yourself. And so me and Taylor Green, who are 2 defenders now, actually came in as forwards. And so she's kind of shaped us into defenders. And so she's really good with kind of having that eye for like what people are good at, even if they don't see it, and just shaping you into the player that you are. And so I think that's definitely awesome as a coach. I mean, I never would have imagined playing defense if you asked me in high school. And so just being able to have those opportunities where you can see fit on the team and on the field and things like that. I mean, she really does work with each individual player and make sure that we're kind of getting where we need to be and where the team needs to be. And so that's just, it's been a great experience. So.
Well, if anybody has watched you all, and especially that defense, they know that was a smart move, because you guys are really, really hard to get the ball through. That's for sure. I never do not enjoy talking about Taylor Green and Alex Rebman. Stop, not even letting the ball get to Laurel. I mean, never half the time doesn't even get to her. So kudos to Coach Steele. She's learned a few things over 40 years, I would say, for sure.